Welcome to the 2020 Special Considerations Request module found in the NEO portal under Maine Educational Assessments. A special consideration is a request for a student to be exempt from participation in a required Maine Educational Assessment, or MEA, for medical reasons. Special consideration requests must be submitted within the open assessment window of each specific applicable MEA as shown on the next slide. For all assessments, with the exception of the SAT, the window for requesting special considerations is based on the corresponding dates of the assessment that is open. As the high school Math and ELA Literacy SAT assessment is one day, April 14th, 2020, for school day, and one day for makeup, April 28th, the special consideration module will be open for SAT requests from March 31st through April 28th, 2020. Students receiving academic instruction in grades 3 through 8 and third year of high school must participate in a state assessment. In rare cases, a student is unable to participate in either instruction or assessment. In these cases, a request for Maine DOE approval of non-participation, a special consideration, in the MEA must be requested. Absence due to behavior issues, suspensions, and truancy does not meet the definition of a medical emergency and therefore is not eligibility criteria for a special consideration exemption request. Special consideration requests must be based on a decision made by an educational team that may include the following as appropriate: the student's teachers, English as a second language endorsed educator, school counselor, principal, parent or legal guardian, and if possible, the student. This educational team collects and reviews information and documents the decision to make a request. Medical emergency includes long-term hospitalization without access to academics, severe trauma, mental health crisis, the student is in danger to self or others, or placement in hospice care. A medical emergency may also include medically fragile students that are not able to participate in any academic activity and/or statewide assessment due to a debilitating disease. What if my student does not have a medical emergency? Consider all 504 or special education accommodations that may be used, such as a paper version request, extended time, multiple assessment sessions, a scribe, or completing the assessment in an alternate setting. Be familiar with the supports that are available within the assessment system. Parent consent is a criteria of special considerations. This is an important part of the request, especially as medical documentation is required for the request. Principals may have access a copy of the parent request within this module. This consent form is to be placed in the student's cumulative file. When you've completed a request, you go back to the welcome page to find your district summary or school requests. In the navigation column, you will find View Request Consent Form. The Consent Form tab provides the option to open or download a pre-populated parent consent signature form. This form must be signed by parents or guardians and kept on file at the school. Please do not send the consent form to the Maine DOE. Principals are authorized to submit special consideration requests and must have login credentials to the NEO Maine Educational Assessments module. If a principal does not have login credentials, contact the MEDMS Help Desk. Once NEO Portal MEA module login credentials are attained, log into the NEO portal at the URL at the top of the slide. Your dashboard may look different depending on how many modules you have been given access or permission to. Select the Maine Educational Assessments, which is the module for special considerations. This opens an MEA special consideration message page with an overview of the process and contact information. The criteria needed to apply for an exemption is stated here. Additionally, on this welcome page, you will see a list of each individual DOE MEA assessment coordinators for any questions about special considerations. The bottom of the welcome page provides 3 direct links. The first, click here, takes you to the MECAS assessment homepage. The second, click here, takes you to summaries of submitted requests, and we will review that later. The third, click here, takes you to a new special consideration request. When you select to enter a new request, this one-page request self-populates with the student, school, and district information when a student's SSID number is entered in Section 1. A student's enrollment information regarding participation in an alternate assessment is provided to assist you in your request for an exemption of a specific alternate assessment. Only students with a Y or yes are available for alternate assessment choices. Section 1 is student information. By entering the state student ID number in the blank box shown at the upper screenshot, the student's name and grade will self-populate. Before proceeding, make sure this information is correct. The lower screenshot shows by entering the student's SSID number, it pre-populated student Adam sample student 10, enrolled as a 12th grader, and is not eligible for alternate assessment as shown by the N for no. Section 2 is enrollment information. If Section 2 does not self-populate after entering the SSID number in Section 1, the student enrollment may not be correct in Synergy. Check your enrollment data and/or contact the MEDMS Help Desk at the email or phone number listed at the bottom of the slide. Next, we will describe 3 enrollment scenarios examples. This slide shows scenario 1 as the sample student has one enrollment that is both the responsible SAU as well as the attending SAU. 2.1 shows that the responsible district is Maine Public Schools. 2.2, the attending district in this case is the same as the responsible SAU, Maine Public Schools, Maine Public School High School. 2.3, primary contact at the Maine Public Schools MPS High School is Sally Smith. Scenario 2 has a responsible district school enrollment with concurrent secondary enrollment at a special purpose private school or SPPS. 2.1 shows the responsible district is Winthrop Public Schools. 2.2, if the student were attending the Winthrop Public Schools, she would be attending the primary Winthrop High School. Instead, this student has a secondary concurrent placement at SPPS Spurwink School in Chelsea. 2.3 shows both primary contacts at Winthrop as well as Spurwink. Scenario 3 shows responsible SAU A, attending SAU B, and concurrent SPPS C. 2.1, responsible district is RSU 12. 2.2, although RSU 12 is the responsible SAU, The student is sent to the Augusta Public Schools, Coney High School as the primary attending SAU, in addition to having a secondary concurrent placement at SPPS Spurwink School in Chelsea. 2.3 shows both primary contacts at the Augusta Public Schools as well as Spurwink. Section 3 is the assessment. Choose the assessment that you are requesting an exemption from. Only assessments that are open at the time you log in will populate, as you can only submit requests while that specific assessment window is open. The Math ELA High School Assessment, SAT, again, is the only exception because it is a one-day test on April 14th. Therefore, requests for SAT exemption opens 2 weeks prior on March 31st through the SAT makeup date on April 28th. All available assessments are listed in Section 3. If requesting multiple assessment exemptions, such as 5th grade Empower and 5th grade MEA Science, you must submit 2 separate requests as you cannot check 2 boxes in the portal at the same time. All MEA assessments that are currently available for requests will appear. Please note that the different dates of each assessment is available for request, not just the assessment window. The opportunity for submission ends with the close of that particular assessment window. For example, a special consideration request for grade 5 and 8 MEA Science must be made between April 27th and May 8th, as these are the assessment window dates for this assessment. You can only click one assessment box, so if you're making a request for more than one assessment, you need to start a new request. Partial requests may be made for math and ELA literacy assessments for both Empower and its alternate MSAA. As shown on this slide, Empower is listed 3 times to request mathematics only, ELA literacy only, or request both math and ELA literacy. The alternate math and ELA literacy MSAA is also listed 3 times for you to request exemption from mathematics only, ELA literacy only, or both math and ELA literacy. Partial requests may be made when a student has a medical emergency during a specific time within the assessment window that only impacts ELA literacy or math only. Section 4, the reason. This section shows you that there is one reason for special consideration requests. An exemption may be approved when a significant medical emergency has rendered a student incapable of participating in any academic activity and/or statewide assessments. This includes long-term hospitalization without access to academics, severe trauma, mental health crisis, or placement in hospice care. A medical emergency may also include medically fragile students that are not able to participate in any academic activity or statewide assessment due to a debilitating disease. Hovering over the question mark will show this definition, as this is the only reason, significant medical emergency, as the default choice. Section 5, assurance by principal. These yes/no questions are required, and yes to all is recommended. If a student cannot communicate an agreement, please mark this as no. The third question denotes that a parent has consented to this request for exemption. The fourth and fifth questions denote that the principal certifies that the student cannot participate in instruction or assessment. Section 6, justification. Justification documentation for each request must be provided to the department. Please provide a narrative explanation of the request in the box. Examples of documentation include doctor's notes, medical records, hospital or other placements, emails justifying medical emergency, etc. After typing in the justification text box, please press your tab instead of enter. After entering the narrative justification in the box, select Choose File to search for files on your hard drive you'd like to upload. Once you've browsed for any file or files you want to upload, double-click to add the files. Documentation must be uploaded to continue with the request. This documentation must be from a medically trained professional or an official on an official letterhead. These are examples of accepted justifications that may be included with your uploaded documentation. This slide shows a sample of a request for a student exemption due to a concussion that was sent back incomplete due to not enough information. The principal justification and the physician documentation was not complete, with the DOE narrative of the denial reason. This slide shows another sample of a request that was sent back incomplete due to not enough information regarding the exemption request for anxiety and attendance. This third sample provides a possibly acceptable principal justification. However, no medical documentation was provided, and the request was sent back incomplete. The department receives many requests for exemption due to concussions. The most common and acceptable medical form is an acute concussion evaluation, or ACE. This example provides a document that does indeed state that the student had a concussion and should not participate in standardized testing. Unfortunately, this document is dated February and the assessments did not begin until mid-March. Given that the medical professionals suggested a 504 plan for extended assessment time in February, the Special Consideration Committee requested that a more up-to-date or follow-up document be submitted. This is a snapshot of sections 7 through 10. 7, requesting SAU certification. 8, responsible SAU authorization. 9, status determination. And 10, comments. Section 7 requires that all principals provide certification of each request, certifying that to the best of their knowledge, the information contained in the request is correct and that you are authorized to provide this general assurance. You also assure the Maine Department of Education that all documentation supporting this request are exact and truthful. Section 7, requesting SAU certification, and 8, responsible SAU authorization, go hand in hand. Remember our 3 enrollment scenarios. In scenario 1, the responsible SAU is the same as the attending SAU. Section 7 will show the requesting SAU certifying, and the 8 responsible SAU appears as not applicable because they are one and the same. For enrollment scenarios 2 and 3, Section 8, responsible SAU authorization, comes into play. In scenario 2, with the responsible and primary enrollment the same, Winthrop, with a secondary concurrent enrollment out of district such as an SPPS, in this example, Spurwink, Winthrop can submit directly and Winthrop will certify and authorize. Or if Spurwink initiates the request, it will show Spurwink requesting SAU certification from Winthrop as certify and submit to Responsible SAU. In this case, Winthrop, as Responsible SAU, will not get an email notification that a request for a student attending the SPPS has been initiated by the SPPS. It is the out-of-district responsibility to communicate to Responsible Winthrop that a request needs their authorization. Subsequently, if Winthrop authorizes, it gets pushed to the DOE as a new submission, but again, the secondary SPPS gets no email notification of this. If Winthrop declines, they need to communicate to the SPPS the reason for the denial. Scenario 3 included 3 entities: RSU 12, Augusta, and Spurwink. If RSU 12 initiates the request, it will be certified and submitted to DOE. If either the attending primary Augusta or concurrent Spurwink initiates the request, it must be authorized, certified by the responsible RSU 12 in order for it to be submitted to DOE. The same rules apply for declining, described in above applies. Again, in scenario 2 and 3, if the requesting SAU certifies and submits to the responsible SAU for authorization, 8.0 will show the responsible to either authorize to auto-submit to DOE or to decline. If the responsible SAU declines, they must communicate that decision to the requesting school, the reason for the denial, and determine if further action is needed. In the status column of your list of submissions, any request declined by a responsible SAU will show as rejected. Communication between the 2 entities must occur to clarify this status. Section 9, Status Determination. The status determination definitions are as follows with corresponding explanations: authorize, reauthorize, rejected, new, incomplete, pending, denied, or approved. Once a request is submitted to DOE, a status will be determined. If incomplete, a narrative in the section of 10.0 comment box should appear indicating the reason and what further information is needed. Section 10 is available for back and forth SAU and DOE comments with separate comment boxes for each entity and can be used to expand on the justification. As new comments are added, do not delete previous comments. As new comments are added, the date is automatically populated. Once a new comment is added, you must click Save Comment, and you'll need to return to your submission for any further action. This shows a sample request that was denied and one that was incomplete with the DOE comment boxes, including narrative. If incomplete, it will be kicked back to whoever initiated the request requiring more information, and an automatic email will be sent indicating the incomplete status. In enrollment scenario 1, the responsible SAU will make the changes and submit directly to DOE. In the enrollment scenarios 2 and 3, the requesting SAU must be notified by the responsible district that the request is incomplete, and requesting SAU will make changes, add justification or support documentation, and the request must be again reauthorized by the responsible in order to be resubmitted to the DOE for a second review. This person requesting the special consideration will receive an automatic email once the DOE has made a determination. You may check the status of your requests by going back to the welcome page and click here for the summary of district requests. If you are a principal associated with one school, that will be the only school you will have access to. If you are assigned to more than one school, they will appear in the school dropdown. The DOE determination will be displayed under status and can be filtered by determination. A list of all students that you have made a special consideration request for will appear. You can sort by attending SAU, attending school, student name, state student ID, grade, resident SAU, test, or status by selecting any column header. You can also enter a specific SSID number into the search box to look for a particular student. In the status column, you can sort by all statuses: new, incomplete, approved, pending, authorized, reauthorized, or denied. Look at the navigation column on the right. Here you may choose View Request or Consent Form. To review all sections of the special consideration request form that have been completed, click View Request. This is a snapshot of an individual student's summary page. This can be downloaded and printed for your records. Please review all of your information before you submit. Thank you for participating in the MEA Special Consideration Request Training. For any questions or clarification, please contact the assessment team.